because we have College Shame Day, you know who that means is here. The one and only host of it, Scott Ellia. Hi, Scott.
Hello, Reid.
Oh, I'm glad to see you're not in the dark.
Uh, well, it's probably going to happen at some point. I'm just thankful it's not snow. If it was just like 10 degrees colder, it would be a perpetual blizzard out there, and I would be very upset.
That's right. And also here tonight, we love him. You love him. He
Heh.
is the one, the only, the curry puff himself. Zuhair Ali is here, host of Animation Deliberation, a podcast you can get wherever podcasts are. But he's also a business owner. Zoo, tell the people where we can find you.
Yeah, check out Upright Exposures on Instagram or uprightexposures.com. Providing top tier real estate media services for all tier listings. So if you have a listing in the Hampton Roads area and are tired of using your cell phone for pictures, then just give me a holler and I'll take care of it.
Holler at your boy. Congrats, Zoo. Let's go.
Thanks, man.
We love it. We love it. All right, boys. So let's get into this NFL talk. All right. We got the whole regular season is done. Black Monday happened. I love it that we're all just rubbing our hands together. We're going to start a fire with all this dry skin. Listen,
I use
Bunch-
Dr. Squash. Thank you very much.
It's eczema. Leave me alone.
bunch of firings have already happened in the NFL. We had a surprise one actually today on Tuesday. By the time this airs, who knows when it'll happen? It's not a surprise to Scott. Scott says not a surprise. Well, let's update all of them here. First off, of the job openings that are available now, the Carolina Panthers, they were the first one. Head coach Frank Reich was fired mid-season. Their GM, Scott Fitterer, was also fired this past Monday, right after the regular season concluded. Las Vegas Raiders, they had already fired Josh McDaniels, and the LA Chargers, they had already fired Brandon Staley in their seasons. Vegas currently has Antonio Pierce as the head coach. Their GM was also fired at the time. Chargers, their GM was also fired at the time, Tom Telesco. Their current interim coach, I think is named Giff Smith. It's the perfect like EA, create a coach that you just need in the meantime while you just lose a couple games. Meanwhile, Monday, at the stroke of midnight, just so you could get in there on Black Monday, Arthur Smith, Atlanta Falcons head coach, was fired. Oof, what an ending for him. What an ending. He ended his career trying to cuss out Saints head coach Dennis Allen over a whole situation. We're gonna get into everything that happened there. But along with Arthur Smith, the long-awaited firing we all knew was actually going to happen, but it was a very classy firing, and I really was happy and respecting of that. That was Ron Rivera of the Washington Commanders. He was let go on Monday morning. The GM, Martin Mayhew, and the other whatever he is, Marty Herney, they're expected to be fired in the coming days as owner Josh Harris is looking for what is called a, quote, head of football operations. Almost kind of a basketball term that he will be, creating here. Brought in Bob Myers, the championship two-time executive of the year from the NBA, Golden State Warriors. Whoa, tripped up on that word. He is coming into the NFL and the Washington Commanders to help them find the next head coach and that head of football operations. Meanwhile, not a head coach, but the New York Giants, they lost their defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale. He offered to resign. Did not get along over there with the head coach. So that's an opening. But on Tuesday, a surprise to me, not a surprise to Scott, Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans was fired. And it was a weird move where a lot of people thought he could be traded away. He could, maybe get some assets in return for him. A lot of teams are going to be looking at him as a head coach. Titans, they just said they didn't have the time to go through the trade process on Mike Vrabel. They didn't care. They didn't need to go through that. They wanted to get to, other young candidates at the moment. So Mike Vrabel is open. Other jobs that could possibly open up that we've heard about, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, the owner, they're expected to have a meeting sometime over this beginning of the week and figure out what Bill's future is going to be with the team. Will he give up power to stay there? Will they go after Mike Vrabel now and bring him in there as their head coach since he's so Patriots culture? The Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll, he announced he is coming back for another season next year, so those retirement rumors go away. Mike Tomlin, then the Pittsburgh Steelers, not expected to get fired. Of course, had another winning season, made it into the playoffs, but Adam Schefter reports that, in fact, Tomlin might take time off himself. He doesn't know yet. They don't know. He might just go ahead and take a year off, kind of like Sean Payton did when he left the Saints. So who knows what happens there. That's something to follow. And, of course, the Dallas Cowboys won the NFC East, made it into the number 2 seed in the playoffs. So how does Jerry Jones respond when talking about Mike McCarthy's performance for the year? We're going to watch him week by week. So pretty much, you lose here in the wild card weekend, you're fired, Mike. Going back to Arthur Smith real quick, I want to talk to you guys just about that whole situation. And I have thoughts, when it comes to running up the score. And that was the whole situation. The Saints were already up against the Falcons 41-17. And in victory formation, Jamal Williams, their running back, somebody that we've been a fan of, he's a big anime fan, had not gotten a touchdown all season. Saints players apparently decided to go ahead and get him a touchdown right there in the final seconds of the game in victory formation. For those that don't know victory formation, it's just when the quarterback and the team, they come up, get all huddled up, and they just take a knee just to run out the clock and end the game respectfully. Saints decided with their backup quarterback, famous Jameis Winston, that's Scott's boy, they decided to run that in, knock up the score to 48-17. Arthur Smith ended his Falcons tenure by cussing out Dennis Allen, the head coach of the Saints. Jameis Winston, though, and this is what I wanted to play for you all. Jameis Winston, the backup quarterback of the Saints, decided to explain himself in the locker room. And those that don't know Jameis, also a.k.a. Crab Legs, he is, crab legs because he stole those crab legs. Yeah,
I
crab
know.
man. Okay.
I know,
yeah,
I
just to explain for everybody. And Jameis is one of the most entertaining players in the NFL. When you hear him talk, he's going to be somebody that's going to be very fun to watch on TV in the future. But he offered an explanation in the locker room, and I want to get you all's take on Jameis's explanation.
Well, I apologize to DA because the play was victory, but I also explained to DA that it was a team decision, and I think when you have a team morale, and I asked the guys, I say, guys, like, what do you want to do? We know how much Jamal means to this team, and I understood from DA's perspective, so I give him that. But DA didn't condone that at all. He didn't. However, we decided as a team to do it, and man, we got an interception to the 1 yard line. So if we would have scored, would it still would have been disrespectful?
Right.
So
Tyron wasn't in on it, was he?
No, Tyron was not in there.
No, just kidding.
Like it was an offensive team discussion. However, when you return the ball to the 1 yard line, and you have that opportunity. We just had that opportunity, and we decided.
Do you think it's the kind of thing, though, that is forgotten fairly quickly, or you know what I mean?
I think it should be forgotten, especially when the score is already 41-17. So I don't know how much worse it can get. But I got a ton of respect for Arthur Smith and the coach that he is. I think they do some incredible things. I didn't want to disrespect him. That was not my intention. My intention was to lead the team that I've been with the entire year, and we made a collective decision that we wanted to get one of our guys who they fight with blood, sweat, and tears every game in the end zone. And I'm going to feel good about that. Yeah.
So, Jameis Winston, backup quarterback with absolute franchise quarterback energy all the time. Great teammate. I think he's a great teammate. If I were Dennis Allen, I kind of agree with, the Shannon Sharps and everything. I'd probably cut his ass pretty quickly because of the decision making of a backup quarterback. But actually, let's get a reporter's thoughts here, because there was one reporter at the end who, and this happened with Dan Campbell. This is great audio that we had last week of Dan Campbell taking on a radio host who was questioning his 2-point decision making, and it led to great sounds like
no
and
thank you.
And now we have those in the arsenal. When you flip the script, a player or a coach flips the script on a reporter and the questions that they're asking, you ask them, hey, what would you do? What did you think about this? It gets kind of awkward like this.
Do we regret for scoring 41 points on them? Do you think we regret that?
Well, you do have to play these guys twice a year. That's all I'm saying.
We already played them twice.
I know, but I'm talking about the future. You know, somebody's got to play these guys twice a year. That's all.
How do you feel about it? Tell me how you feel about it.
Not good.
Why don't you feel good about it?
Because you got to play these guys twice a year.
But what about it makes you not feel good about it?
The head coach tells you to kneel it out. You're asking my opinion?
Yes.
I think you should have kneeled it out.
Okay. Well,
I'm just telling you as respectfully as I can. You answer my question as respectfully as you could, and I'm telling you as respectfully as I can that I respectfully disagree with you. That's all.
you disagree with me or the entire team?
Whoever made that decision.
Okay. So you disagree with the entire team. So thank you.
No, I'm just being honest and respectful.
And that's what I'm attempting to do too.
Yes.
And that's what I am doing.
So,
Yes. Thank you.
Should have stuck with attempting.
The Saints locker room is the most turned up place in the world. By the way, oh my God, they have like an actual DJ in there, and now we get this. We now have sounds to complement the Dan Campbell sounds.
Thank you.
Get a full.
Yes.
no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can join the Saints DJ. What are you guys' thoughts, Scott? You were shaking your head very vigorously in there. What are your thoughts about the Saints' decision, about Jameis's decision ultimately?
No, I am in 100% support of Jameis and the team to get Jamal Williams that touchdown. I mean, if you remember last year in Detroit, this is a running back who posted, over 1,000 yards rushing, 17 touchdowns on the year, and then go to this year, and he's kind of had a very quiet, probably his worst season of his career at this point because, of course, it's more circumstances outside of his control. I know the team kind of asked him to play more of a fullback role than a running back role because of injury concerns and things of that nature. But when you have a team guy like Jamal Williams, who, the fans love him, his teammates love him, it only makes sense if that's your last play of the season and you're on the 1 yard line and you would have scored anyways. Cause like he had alluded to, I mean, Tyrann Mathieu ran back 74 yards on an interception to the 1 yard line. They would have scored anyways at that point. And last I checked, this is a sport. You play to win the game, no matter what happens. This whole unwritten rule and of being respectful. Fuck that. These two are longtime rivals. I mean, we have the classic Anthony Mackie rise up clip that we play every once in a while. I mean, this is what rivalries are built on. Are the Falcons organization going to have a bad taste in their mouth going into next season? Absolutely. But that's what makes the sport entertaining, is for storylines like this. So having Jameis, pinning Jameis as being like a social pariah because he made that decision because he was the quarterback at the time, it's clear the team made the decision together. If anything, it just shows that Dennis Allen has just lost the locker room.
You know what?
And maybe he's the one who needs to go.
You know what he was telling Jameis?
You're disappointing your father. He raised you to be better than this.
Oh!
Be a better man.
Hey!
Be the best man that you can be.
Rise up, baby!
Now, Zoo, I am somebody, and I want to know your thoughts with it, because when it comes to running up the score, I'm kind of with Washington football's legendary coach Joe Gibbs, when he famously, back during his original tenure with the team, would get shit on for running up the score on teams. He liked to do it. And his defense was, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Right? You're going to get shit on by the fans no matter what happens. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the other team's job to stop me. Like, that's your job, is to stop me on defense. But from a management or coaching perspective, if a player takes the reins like that at the end, is that a Jameis problem, or is it, like Scott said, a Dennis Allen issue?
If you're already up that much and you're going to run up the score, call it as a play. It's the fact that they went into victory formation that's peeving everybody. And that part I get, because that's when you're saying, like, all right, we're calling it. We're just going to take this knee and be done. So it's like, if you're going to go into that position and then just run the ball, like, that doesn't make sense. If you're already up that much and you want to embarrass them more, like, embarrass them more by getting an actual play in, not by being a dick about it.
That's fair enough. We don't need any more dicks. We got plenty of dicks in the NFL.
Hey, listen, all I will say is that when I was younger growing up playing football, you play until the whistle blows. And they played until the final whistle blew. It's not their fault that the Falcons they saw victory and then expect the unexpected.
You tell him, Hank Stram. That's now, listen, Arthur Smith, don't even have to worry about it. They talk about, twice a year, they see him twice a year, and you're not going to see Arthur Smith twice a year. You don't have to worry about disrespecting Arthur Smith. He's gone. Desmond Ridder, probably going to be gone too in Atlanta. Atlanta is a big job opening in the NFL, but Zoo, I'm going to ask you, of all of these head coaching openings here, which ones are the best, which ones are the worst in your opinion?
I think the best would be between, I'm going to say Washington and the Chargers. I want to say the Raiders just because they have a lot of good pieces and a lot that they can work with, but it just seems like Antonio Pierce kind of won the locker room there. So that's why I'm not including them on the top part. But because the Chargers, they're the same situation as the Raiders, where it's like they have a lot of weapons. They just need someone who can utilize it the best way. So to get the right GM and get the right coach, I think that's really all that they're missing from being a productive team. For Washington, you just it's perfect reset. 90 mil in cap space, top 5 picks in the first 100. There's just a lot to work with. You're working from scratch. You have a potentially elite wide receiver. You have two great pieces on the D line, and you have a lot of usable pieces that are still on rookie contracts. I think the only people that really deserve a contract right now who are on the team are Cam Curl and Sam Cosmi. And then everything else is just basically a clean state for you to build on. So Washington is definitely the most appealing in that case if you just want to have free reign of what you do. The worst, I think, really is Carolina because, yes, you got a first overall pick quarterback, but you really don't have anything around that. Like, are you really going to sign Brian Burns? You got rid of your two big pieces in McCaffrey and DJ Moore. The owner is just an absolute piece of work. The fan base is kind of fallen off too. Like, the fact that you can't get even the opposing team in the stadium is pretty impressive. So whoever ends up in Carolina, just good luck to you there. But I think there's going to be a good line for people who want to be for the Chargers or Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree with you on the, Chargers and Commanders at the top there. The Chargers, obviously, because you're already LA, you're going to have, you have a franchise quarterback with Justin Herbert set there. And ownership, you can say whatever, but I don't want to be a homer, but I agree with Washington. I think is the best spot, the best landing spot for a coach or GM at the moment because of exactly what you said. All of that cap space for free agency, whatever you want to do with your current players, which honestly you can reset most of them at this rate. And that number 2 overall pick. You have your literal pick of the litter outside of Caleb Williams, unless you want to trade up for him right there at number 1. So it gives you a lot of opportunities for any coach, and the ownership is another big one that makes it very desirable. You have somebody that really wants to do things the right way and create this, an excellent sports industry here in Washington. You're actually getting talks, and can believe it, of guys like Jim Harbaugh coming up from Michigan to come run this team. So when it's between Washington and the Chargers there, but I would also put in a sneaky one for Atlanta. I think the Falcons are a really good landing spot because of how much young talent is on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think the big issue is quarterback there. I don't believe in Desmond Ridder, don't believe in Taylor Heineke there. You can work out something to where you can, they're in good draft position. You might be able to land a Jaden Daniels or trade up for, Drake May, even trade up for Caleb Williams. You can trade for Justin Fields if it gets to that level. But the talent that they managed to draft over the last couple of years and that Arthur Smith mismanaged, and Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan Robinson, guys that show plenty of potential and promise there. And on the defensive side with Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell, who had a down year, but I still think is pretty good. There's a lot there that you can work with. And Arthur Blank is a really good owner for that team. Worst, I mean, I think we're all going to be in agreement. Carolina Panthers are the worst spot. David Tepper, we talked about it before. Is he going to be the next Dan Snyder? He's really showing Dan Snyder vibes. Like it's really eerie. The throwing a beer on a fan, that was a little over the Dan Snyder line because
because Dan Snyder never did anything publicly. All this stuff was shady.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, throwing a beer on a fan, that's outrageous. And then with reports that, Panthers fans are like, hey, could we go get Jim Harbaugh? Tepper is somebody who does not want to give control over to a coach. He doesn't want to give a lot of organizational control. He still wants to have a hand in what's going to happen with the roster and all that. You do not want meddling, and I don't know any coach that's going to want to go and be a part of that, or a GM for that matter. But a sneaky second worst, I think, honestly, are the Tennessee Titans. I like them with Mike Vrabel. I liked Mike Vrabel to stay there and lead that team. I thought it was a down year, a rebuilding year, but you can't really blame Vrabel, I think, because of the personnel there. He's had a shot Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, the Mayo King, and then Malik Hooker, whatever he's going to be doing, and an aging Derrick Henry. Like the whole team has really gone downhill since the A.J. Brown trade, in my opinion. So I don't think they have a good thing going with their GM. I don't know what coach is going to be able to really fix that Vrabel couldn't with, his leadership skills there. But Scott, what are your views? Who are the best options for coaching? What are the best teams? What are the worst teams and worst options at head coach?
Yeah, I think collectively you both have kind of put together my list from top to bottom, best openings to worst. Best in my mind is the Commanders. It seems like Josh Harris is pretty much willing to do whatever it takes at this point to rebrand and get that team back to prominence, especially in the NFC East. And then following that, I'm actually going to put the Falcons over at number 2. I think the Falcons have so much. I think their team is a lot better than what their record shows. I think if they actually get a solid coach in there and a competent quarterback in there, even if it's a kind of a Band-Aid, kind of a rental for a season or two, and give, whether it's Desmond Ridder or whatever rookie you end up drafting this year, give them some time to sit and learn. I think they'll be a lot better than most people will expect going in the future. But clearly the Panthers and the Titans are the worst job. You couldn't pay me enough to go coach in Carolina at this point with all their issues. And the Titans, you got to remember too, they traded damn near all their assets to the Eagles. So they don't even have anything good looking forward to the future at this point for their rebuild. So you're really scraping together some kind of team down there in Tennessee. I really like Ben Johnson going to the Chargers, especially with Justin Herbert there. I think that would be a really, really great matchup. I think me and you talked about this. We even talked about it last week online, or maybe we were just texting about it. But I would really love to see Ravens DC Mike McDonald go to the Commanders. I think that is kind of where,
he's getting interviewed.
Yeah.
Right. I think that would be like the best thing for Washington at this point. I think that was the biggest thing, was the defensive side of the ball. So getting a defensive-minded coach, especially a Baltimore defensive-minded coach in there, I think that would be kind of the best thing to do at this point. And give Antonio Pierce his contract, please. Just give it to him.
Well, I mean, that's why none of us brought up the Raiders. I mean, he's the perfect fit there. He displayed it not only in terms of a leadership and just fitting that kind of Raiders mold, but I think he's actually a pretty damn good play call. He reminds me he's like the Raiders version of Dan Campbell. Like he's perfect for that team, and just a perfect fit for that that whole mantra. But Zoo, with the Commanders, who would you want? You had Scott bring up Mike McDonald. Who would you want as head coach for the Washington Commanders?
So I will say that my list comes off of Rio Robinson's picks, because I follow his stuff a lot and kind of get a lot of my opinions from his perspective. But the Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, and the Ravens DC that we just mentioned, whose name I already forgot, seem to be like the top 3. Only one of them is a defensive-minded coach, while the other 2 are offensive. But it all comes down to the coordinators that you have coming with you after that.
That's always...
Also, Bieniemy going to Atlanta is a very interesting storyline right now too.
Yeah, that's a interesting one just in general. Bieniemy is an interesting one every year, and it's one that, Commanders fans already seem to have just let go. Like we had the Bieniemy experience, and we're kind of now, I guess, feeling like Patrick Mahomes, like, we don't need him over here. You can go ahead, take him, Atlanta.
There's already some grumblings going on in the Falcons camp with who they're trying to get, who said they're willing to interview for the head coaching position that we'll probably get into in the college side of everything.
Who's the OC for Chargers?
Kellen Moore.
I think him and Ben Johnson would actually be a great duo.
Honestly, yeah, because Kellen Moore was kind of the wonder kid before Ben Johnson. Everybody
He
was
was a
looking.
scapegoat in Dallas.
Yeah, he was used as a scapegoat in Dallas, and then offense in LA was great at times, but Chargers fans themselves have said that the play calling was awful at different times, and he was just making really weird mistakes and the same mistakes over and over again that they don't trust really as a head coach. So maybe giving him another year in that offense and being able to keep Justin Herbert in a stable thing with a new head coach, that would be an interesting choice and an interesting pickup. But listen, we talk about the Chargers. You're talking about all these teams that did not make the playoffs. I want to talk to you guys about any observations that you have from the regular season now that it's over. And these teams that didn't make the playoffs, what thoughts do you have just from the regular season as a whole? Zoo, since you're giggling over here, what are some observations that you have from this regular season?
I was gonna save this one for Luis, but the Jets, man, brought all these pieces in to have this team. They were gonna be competitive. The whole AFC East was supposed to be this powerhouse going against each other. None of that came to fruition.
Well, Rodgers has somehow made them look worse. Like, I don't want to get into, we talked about Rodgers and pinpointing crazy last week. I think that's enough attention to give him. Obviously, that's what he's seeking with, the Pat McAfee show and everything that's been off of his fucking rocker today on his appearance. But somehow has made the Jets look worse. And just in general, I agree with this. The fact that they couldn't get any quarterback throughout the season after losing him right in that first game, I think that's a huge disappointment, almost shocking, especially when you're watching, Jose Flacco tear it up for the Cleveland Browns.
On top of that, for teams that didn't make it, it's amazing how much of the disappointment the Jaguars were. Like, they didn't have any games where they were like really standoutish. It was just like they had to fight for every win and still didn't make it. On that point, it's impressive how well the Colts and Cardinals did with their Eagles coordinators taking over as head coaches. Definitely did not expect them to be as productive and good as they were. NFC South ended up being what we expected. The Bears were a huge disappointment. I thought they were going to be fighting for the North, and they were still same old Bears. Same old Bears. Will they get a quarterback? Will they get a wide receiver in the first round? Will they trade back? Who knows? And then, of course, our sad Commanders thought we had all these new weapons and new OC, and we were going to be productive and start racking the points. No, we're just breaking records on sacks and pass attempts for some reason.
We're taking offense during the preseason when people are giving us like 4-13 projections. Oh, how the hell? No, we're going to get at least 9. No, we got 5. It's okay.
Second overall pick.
Well,
worked so well last time.
I would jump off of a couple things that you said with the NFC South. Obviously, it was awful, god awful. Scott,
hey.
except for Scott's Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Someone had to win it.
Yes.
Yeah, listen, we hear all this praise of Mike Tomlin never having a losing season. He's always over 500. Hey, we're over 500. I don't care. Where's our praise? Oh yeah, we don't celebrate mediocrity in Tampa Bay.
Somebody had the perfect Tampa Bay Buccaneers analysis, and I don't remember where it was, but they said Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't care. Couldn't care. They're in there. Cool. We're moving on. Like, that's the perfect. It feels like the perfect Bucs analysis because I didn't hear shit about them all year, except from Scott. But even from you, it was like it wasn't like actual any analysis. It was like, oh, they're above 4 games now. We thought
Hey, we're just scrapping and clawing wins together. But if anything, Baker's definitely proven himself in that 1-year deal for an extension.
I'm happy for him. I'm very
So
happy for him. Toughest dude in the league. But that's a playoff team. We have to get into that on the Thursday show on Ricks versus Gricks. But as I'm saying about the NFC South, awful this year outside of the Bucks and Todd Bowles. Oh, darn, we're not going to get Todd Bowles. But
Jameis Winston.
NFC South over there, I have a very early bold prediction is that I think they're going to return to strength next year. I think that's a division with a lot of potential, a lot of talent that if the right coaching changes are made between Atlanta getting a good head coach, to pair with their GM Terry Fontenot, who I think is actually really good, and the New Orleans Saints improving on, their offensive coaching spots, which we've heard reports that they might be planning to offer John Gruden a spot on the offense. I don't know if it would be as a coordinator or, like an offensive consultant, something to reunite him with Derek Carr and spark Carr back up, because I don't know what happened with him this season. But they make the proper changes, and all of a sudden I think you have super competitive teams that can actually make an impact in the NFC playoffs. The same with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if they can continue to build on Baker's comeback this year and build the right way, add the right pieces, and shed whatever dead weight they need to. Panthers, don't need to worry about them. They're not going to have an impact next year. I predicted that last year. I'm not falling in that trap again. And the other observation I have, and Scott, this will probably lead into you because it's your boy, Kirk O'Bangs. I think Kirk Cousins proved this season by not being around how valuable he is, and I think he's going to be a huge game-changing piece this offseason for if he's even able to sniff free agency, because I still think the Vikings and the way they surprised everybody last year with how good they were getting into the playoffs at that first year under Kevin O'Connell. And the second season, honestly, they still could have been devastating in the playoffs if it wasn't for their Jets-level disaster at quarterback. Cousins tore his Achilles, and then you're stuck with some rotation of Jaron Hall, Nick Mullins, and Josh Dobbs, the pastronaut coming in there. So Cousins, I think they offer him like a 2-year fat extension just to, keep him there, get the next guy in waiting ready after, with the draft or whatever. But Cousins, to me, showed how valuable he was without even needing to play.
Where are the Vikings in the pick?
11th.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that was my biggest thing, was the team that didn't get into the playoffs. I'm all eyes on the Vikings. The Vikings need to sign Kirk Cousins to, he's, what is he, 30, what is he now, 35, something like that?
I think he's a little younger than that. I think he's 33, 34.
Yeah, but still, even with him only playing 8 games this season, he's still like in the top 20 of like quarterback stats wise, which is insane. After he went down with that Achilles, I believe the Vikings only won 3 games after he left, but a lot of those games were like 1-score games. Like they lost to the Broncos by a point, they lost to the Bears by 2 points, they lost to the Bengals by 3 points, like a touchdown to the Lions, and then the Packers, they lost by 23, but that's neither here nor there. But a lot of those close games that they lost, conceivably, I honestly believe if Kirk was under center, they would have been tipped to the other side. They would have been wins, and they would have been in the playoffs with no question. I think Kirk just kind of is that quarterback, kind of slides under the radar all the time. No one really expects a lot out of him, but you look at the stat line, and he's obviously one of the main contributors at the quarterback position throughout the whole league.
I agree with that. You have any other observations from the regular season?
That the Commanders need to invest in O-line and O-line only. Just throw money at it. Just throw it there on the O-line and on the defensive line. Just get all the fat guys you can find. Everybody. I don't want to see one skill position drafted. All fat guys. Maybe a cornerback.
It's going to look like a TLC primetime schedule.